And for more on this now, I'm joined by Thorsten Benner. He is head of the think tank, the Global Public Policy Institute here in Berlin. Thorsten, it's good to see you again. You saw the Scholz-Putin...
Good to see you, Brent.
Thank you. You saw the news conference today between Scholz and Putin. Is Eastern Europe, is it any less likely to see war now?
I think it's as NATO said, it's too early to talk about real de-escalation, but there are some tentative signs. At least the two sides, Scholz and Putin, didn't agree on much of substance, but the one thing they agreed on was to continue to talk. And as long as they talk, war is less likely. But I think we should expect this crisis to continue and the Russian pressure also militarily to be kept up for months to come. I don't think we'll see a real de-escalation anytime soon, but I think the immediate threat of war looks a bit less likely now, but Putin can always surprise us.
Yeah, that's true. He's always good for a surprise. The Chancellor today, he said that diplomacy is certainly not exhausted. The Russians are saying, just as much. What do you expect to see next?
I think continued. I mean, in the best case, there'll be continued talks. One channel with the U.S. and NATO, which is, I think, a little less promising, and then another channel on the Minsk agreement between Ukraine and Russia. And there's some more promising signs, some question marks, of course, today also with the Duma's action. But I think in general, at least yesterday, Mr. Scholz was also in Kiev, and Kiev agreed to do its part of the Minsk agreement. So I think I would expect, in the best case, those negotiations to proceed in the coming weeks and months.
I want to ask you a little bit about the choreography of the news conference that we saw today. I mean, you're aware that DW last week was forced by the Russian government to close its Moscow bureau. Chancellor Scholz today at the news conference, he gave his first question to a DW reporter who was traveling with him, our very own Michaela Kufner. What did you make of that?
This was a very forceful sign that Scholz stands up for, and the German government stands up for media freedom. And not only did he give the first question to DW, but Scholz also talked very clearly about the closing down of the NGO Memorial. He clearly said that it's not acceptable from a rule of law point of view, the treatment of Navalny. So Scholz was quite forceful, and he also had a pretty negative remark when asked about former Chancellor Schröder, who was on the Kremlin's payroll. Scholz talked about him as a former politician without even naming his name, and saying, he's in private business now, but he doesn't talk for anybody but his own private business. So these were pretty clear political signals from Olaf Scholz's side.
Russia's parliament today asked Putin to recognize the East Ukrainian regions of Donetsk and Luhansk as independent states. That could really throw a wrench into all the diplomacy, couldn't it?
Yes, I mean, Olaf Scholz said, and very rightly so, that this would be a political catastrophe if this Duma decision was implemented. But I think we should for now see it as part of the Kremlin's compellence, or the effort to coerce Kiev into doing, what the Kremlin thinks is what it needs to do on more independent status of these regions by law. So I don't think they will act on it yet, but they keep it as a threat. Similar to the troops, they keep it as a threat in the background for the negotiations.
Okay, Thorsten Benner with the Global Public Policy Institute. Thorsten, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.